You are listening to the Novel Writing Podcast, episode 151. I'm your host, Colleen Mitchell. Grab a cup, cozy up, and let's get to writing. Today's episode is about what to do when your brain is chock full of story ideas and you don't know which one to focus on. A related problem to this is deciding to finish one project before starting another, or to work on them all simultaneously, and we'll discuss both of these questions in this episode. So first up, do you have multiple story ideas? For most of us, the answer is yes. Authors pretty much bathe in creativity, so it's totally normal to have several stories floating around your head at any given time. There are some authors out there who have one clear story at a time, and for them, the answer to this question is much more straightforward. But this episode is for those of you who do have a lot of ideas swirling around and are curious about how to handle the constant question of which story to work on at any given time. Now, I happen to have multiple story ideas, some of them in the same universe, and others in a completely different and unrelated universe. Plenty of authors have a bunch of stories that are all in the same genre, same world, and some have ideas spanning the gamut of genres. No matter where you stand in that swath, know that there is no right or correct answer about what to work on at any given time. You make a decision, and then you make that decision the right one until you either finish it or you make a new decision to focus on something else. So let's break this down. Let's say you have 3 book ideas. 2 of them are in the same universe, meaning they involve either the same characters in the same world or new characters in the same world. The 3rd book idea is in a completely different genre and has brand new characters. Which do you work on when you sit down for your writing session? The answer depends on your priorities and what you've been working on thus far. For me, as I record this, I'm on the 3rd book in my main series, with 1 more to follow, several spin-offs, and a new book series in a different genre. How I approach this problem depends on the active project and my own commitments to myself and my readers. I plan to finish book 3, then book 4, and then work on both a villain backstory and the new series at the same time, by which I mean I will probably swap between them every draft. So in our hypothetical example, you might work on the 2 in-universe stories simultaneously, though doing so will mean that it will take you twice as long, if not longer, to finish both of them, and wait until afterward to tackle the 3rd book idea. Now this assumes that the 2 in-universe stories aren't in the same series, meaning don't work on book 2 while you're working on book 1. That never goes well. Or you might work sequentially through the 2 related books and then tackle number 3. Or you could write the standalone first, and that would give you more time to think about the total arc of the story you want to tell in the 1st universe. As you can see, there are many different ways of approaching this problem, and they all depend on your personality, your writing style, how you handle writer's block, the commitment you've made to your readers or your audience, if you have one right now, and the commitments that you've made to yourself. And if you have questions about your writing personality or writer's block, check out our quizzes linked in the description. Now, at the same time, it's okay to take a step back from any given project if you find yourself struggling to get into the zone with it, or you feel like you've lost the motivation or the inspiration to even be in that universe. Now, if that's you, then that's a cue to take a step into a different writing project, whether it's a different genre, a foray into nonfiction, or dabbling in short stories or poetry rather than a novel-length work of fiction. For the authors who have a ton of stories in their heads, but no clear compass for which one to work on, my advice is this: pick one and just work on it. And if your initial reaction to that advice is, no, I have to pick right, that means you either have an issue with needing to make the right decision, which means you get stuck making decisions, or you really do have a preference and you just don't want to admit it to yourself right now. I know an author who lets her dogs pick when she can't make a decision. If you need to delegate, delegate, but don't blockade yourself from making progress just because you can't choose between 2 or more projects. It really doesn't matter which one you work on first, and that's why this advice works. If you find yourself stalling out on that story that you picked, then you just switch gears to work on a different one. Or you find out that you don't have as many ideas as you thought you did, so you switch gears to work on another one. And in doing so, you could end up with more ideas for later. A side note hack that I learned from an email from Atticus, which is a formatting software for PCs, is to create a new project file whenever you have the new idea. Write down all of your ideas related to that story, and then rename the project title or file name to be something like "Keep working on your main thing," or "Not right now," so you have a visual reminder in your project library to keep your focus on the book you're currently working on. And it doesn't give away any tantalizing details about the story idea you wrote inside it that might entice you away to work on that one instead. Anyways, when you're just getting started with your author journey, there is really no downside to just picking a story and plowing ahead. It's when you have multiple projects going on, or you already have a book or two in a series out, that this decision becomes much more vital. But even then, what ultimately matters is that you are making the decision for yourself and not for others. Keep working on a series because you want to, or because you've determined that it makes the most sense for your author career, not because you may have an audience hankering for the next installment, although that's nice to have. If you've lost inspiration in a series, you may need to take a detour for a while to get that inspiration back, and there's nothing wrong with that. So the second piece of this is, do you finish Project A completely, meaning it's published, before you start Project B? The answer, again, is it depends. Personally, I'm okay with dabbling in other stories while working on the current project, but I'm never going to completely switch gears and actually draft another book while I'm still in the writing or editing mode of the current project. So for example, I'm working on book 3. That means I'm dabbling in the outline for book 4, as well as brainstorming for my other series, but I'm not dropping book 3 in favor of fully working on those other projects. My priorities are clear, and those are my North Stars in terms of where I put my writing focus from day to day. But if I happen to get an idea or two for other things, nothing is stopping me from writing them down, or even pursuing them for a bit, as long as my main focus is not changing from book 3, or whatever my current project happens to be when you listen to this, to something else. Of course, what works best for me might not work best for you, so feel free to experiment with working on multiple projects at once and see what it does for your creativity and your word count. You might find that you work great with more than one outlet, and if you can keep them all straight, more power to you. What matters is finding a system that works for you, because no other author is like you, and you are like no other author. If you find it a breeze to work on a new book every 3 months, and by new book I mean a new draft and then setting it aside when you work on the different one, then great. And if you have to go start to finish one book at a time, that's great too. There are no author police out there dictating the right way to work on multiple stories. So take heart. You can work on more than one at once if you want to, and it ultimately doesn't matter which one you choose to write first. That's it for today's episode. If this has been helpful, we would appreciate it if you left a rating or review on whatever platform you listen on. While it does nothing for us, it really does help other writers find this podcast. So thanks for joining me, and remember, the first draft is supposed to be garbage. Thanks for listening to the Novel Writing Podcast. If you're ready to stop struggling and start finishing your novel, check out the 60-Day Novel Writing Challenge. It's a step-by-step program designed for solo writers to complete their first draft with clarity and focus. Visit the link in the description to learn more.